Reverend Joanne Faith, that's her middle name, Boruck, and she is going to surprise us and talk about transcendent purpose. Oh, Reverend Joanne.
Thank you, Reverend Tress.
Help me down.
Absolutely. I got my handy dandy cane.
We're in the
Yeah.
cane club.
Yeah.
I'll just go down the big.
Okay.
Hey, I made it. Okay.
And in case you forget that we're all one, Ursula and Tress and I were just talking in the table back there about the plants and the animals and how we're all one with them. And then if you heard Reverend Tress's meditation, you've already heard my talk because we're all one, and so my talk's in part of her meditation. I got to find my... Holy, holy. Good morning. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. I only need this for the stairs now, so I can kick it to the curb. I invite you to join me as I take this sign off the wall, awakening humanity to its spiritual magnificence. I'm taking that sign off the wall and I put it in my heart when I wrote my talk. And I'm going to break it down into steps. There's 2 and 3 and 5 and 2. And to help you awaken to your transcendent purpose. So please join me right now in an opening affirmative prayer. If you choose, go within and take a deep breath. And with each exhalation, drop a little deeper into your heart. And with each inhalation, rise a little higher into your consciousness. As we breathe together, in and out. Thank you. Nobody knows why, but when we breathe in and out, we bring synergy into the room and we all breathe in harmony. And now that we're in our heart and in our truth, I declare and know that there is only one power operating throughout my life and all of creation. I speak these words in the first person as they are the truth for all who claim it as theirs. This power, this name is simply our connection to this deep, deep strength that is within each and without each of us. I call this one power God. All the great sages and teachers of the world, they've called it Jesus, Buddha, Isis, Kuan Yin. They all speak of a power greater than we are. And they all speak of this power being within. There is only one truth, unconditional love and infinite possibilities. So I state with conviction and confidence that as we are all creations of this divine creator, within each of us is the seed of purpose. The seed of power, strength, wisdom, just awaiting our recognition so that it may present ourselves in our life as peace. A peace that passes understanding, but a peace that takes practice. It takes constant confirmation. Therefore, I surround myself with like-minded people who can and do make me the best version of myself. At work, at home, at play, the energy I give off is one of unconditional love and acceptance for myself and for others. With great gratitude for this truth, for the truth of our divinity and the teaching of Ernest Holmes, for each person here today to support and know each other as love. I let this go into the all-knowing infinite presence where it is done. Return to me multiplied and overflowing, and together we say, and so it is. In this place of quietness and knowing we are one, let us hold in our hearts our own self by saying our name silently to ourselves. I claim this truth for Joanne. And hold in our hearts all those who are struggling right now to find peace and truth in their hearts. All those who are climbing the ladder of truth and overcoming health, love, financial, creative obstacles, we remove them all with the light of love. Thank you. Transcendent purpose. What an amazing word, eh? I saw it on the ministers. We have this ministers listserv. And they sent out this picture, and it was just exquisite. It was, one of those energetic pictures with all the orbs. And underneath it said, transcendent purpose. And I saw it, and it just it just took me back. And I thought, I was looking for a title for this month. I think this month is so magnificent. It's so celebratory because we enter into the time of resurrection. And that's a message for us too. It's about religious resurrection, but I wondered how can we interpret that in our own life so that we know that we can rise again too. So I looked up the word transcendent purpose, and it says it's going beyond. It's exceeding the limits of human experience. And here's the first 3 steps. There's 3 kinds of transcendence purpose. First, there's the ego. You have to transcend your ego. And the next is yourself. While we transcend our purpose with ourself, we have to remove ourself from the equation and open ourselves to a bigger experience. And the other is beyond space and time. Wow, that's a tough one. We live in space and time, and we measure everything by time. I remember reading once that they invented a clock just so they could tell you were late. That's what my kids said. Every house in my clock had a different time, and my son Gary said to his sister and brother, it's always a different time at Mom's house, and you're always late when you get home. It doesn't matter. But Peter came, changed all my clocks. Now they're all on time. So transcendence takes you and helps you connect to a larger universe and provides meaning to your life. To rise above, to go beyond, to exceed or excel. And it sounds like something that's hard to attain. But really, it's just another way to look at your purpose. I think we have a personal purpose, a job purpose, and I think we have a soul purpose, but I also think we have a higher purpose. And I've done a few talks about that. If you think that you know what's for your greatest and highest good, well, if you multiply that by about 1 million, that's what Creator, God's higher purpose is for your life. So we want to look past your life purpose, even past your soul purpose. And what is my purpose on this earth with everybody here? So personally, I relate it to this way. And I think I have to interject here and say, the thing that we teach here is, they talk about, some people say there's no Bible out there. But we do believe some of the words in the Bible, but what we do is a metaphysical approach to Christianity. We'll take a scripture out of the Bible, and it was written 2,500 years ago, so how could that be relevant today? That's what we do. We take something that we've read, whether we read it from Buddha, Isis, whoever we read it from, and think, oh, that was good then, but what happens now? So the thing that Ernest Holmes did, he is our teacher. He was the one that wrote this book on how to follow this philosophy of oneness and power and truth. He says that our life can be compared to a garden. And the manifestation of anything in your life breaks down to 3 pieces. There's the seed, the soil, and the plant. Now, the seeds are the thoughts, and the soil is your mind, and the plant is whatever manifests in your life based on your thoughts. Whatever thoughts we put into the soil. And you would have thought the most important thing to succeed would be the seed. What are you putting into your mind? Not true. The soil, your mind. If you think about a garden, you think if you plant a seed in acidic soil, or if you plant a seed in a rock like in northern Ontario, or even you plant it in sand, it's not going to grow. I can testify to that. I did affirmation for many years before I came here, but nothing was growing because I was planning to get in here about like, what if that does come true? And then like, what if? And what if? So the first thing you have to do is pull those weeds of negative thought and fertilize your mind with faith and courage and love. You know, for my life too, for a lot of my life, I didn't know what my purpose was. I truly thought for the first 40 years it was just to survive. Okay, I made it through today. And I thought that was my purpose because I lived my story. I was a teenage mom, and I was a single mom for most of my life, and I had some addiction problems, and I thought, okay, my purpose was to overcome these 3 things. But for some of us, you don't have to go through that. I was planting seeds of affirmation, but I wasn't getting the manifestation. Even when I was studying to be a minister, I was planting seeds of affirmation and speaking my truth. And one word just kept coming to me, and I read it in the Bible, and it said, preparing the soil. Preparing the soil. And I never knew what that meant. I thought about it in love. I thought about it in life. And when I didn't know what the heck is going on with my life, I kept saying to myself, I'm preparing the soil. And that came to me that maybe that was my purpose. Prepare the soil for something greater. Because, you know, it's not something you find. It's something that's already inside of you. You just have to germinate it. That seed's already inside. You have to germinate it with faith and with self-love. Because you already are it. And you create it by preparing the soil. The concept of preparing the soil, I found that in the Bible because I thought, where did that come from? And the parable of that is in Luke chapter 8, and it says, it's where Jesus used the imagery of a farmer and the field to illustrate how people respond to life. And the parable emphasized the importance of cultivating a receptive mind and heart to receive Spirit's message or to listen to your intuition, just like preparing the soil for planting. And I'm going to talk, in my next part, I'm going to talk about the 2 people we are. We're either doers or we're knowers. We used to think we were doers and beers, but there's more to being. You have to know. So are we doers or knowers? Doers plant the seeds, and knowers receive the message and listen to their intuition. Preparing the soil. In Galatians chapter 5 it says, to prepare the soil is to plant seeds of righteousness so that we can produce a vast harvest of fruit, which is love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, faithfulness, and self-control. Wow. I didn't know how important that phrase was to me. So I invite you now to follow me in consciousness as I share my insights on the purpose of the spiritual path, preparing the soil. Do you know the purpose? When I started writing my talk about purpose, I asked a lot of people what they think about purpose. And then I was talking to Peter, and we said, well, you can't have a purpose without a path, because they're two ends of the same stick. So I want to talk a little bit about the path. Ernest Holmes tells us, love is the way, but law makes the way possible. And we call it the law of mind, which is really the mind responds to whatever you seed into it. So the Bible says the purpose is the way, but the path makes the way possible. So purpose is just a way, but we have to have a path. The very first purpose that we have is to wake up. I wrote self-realization, awakening, but really it's just about like, wake up, world. We're all awake, and we have to start sharing that with other people. You know, I was talking to somebody new that came today, and he was talking about the changes he's making in his world, and he's waking up. But holy crow, is it ever easier to be asleep? I have a whole family of dormant sleepers. So I know it's hard to wake up. But welcome. We're here, and we'll shine a light, and we're always here for you. And when you wake up, you realize that you have all these people, all this energy, all this life ahead of you, and you're on a path. And you know that path, it's above you, it's below you, it's within you. And once you discover who you truly are, then you are Dorothy. You put one foot on the golden road, and the next one lights up, and the next one lights up, and you start to merge with your true self. A lot of my talk, I channel it, and I just talk into my iPad. And it came to me, and it said to me, remember, you are spirit and expression. Self-realization is the realization of the divine within your own being, and is the purpose and promise of life. Remember, it is the experience of ultimate love, peace, and the depth of divine silence. The truth is what we all seek. So the path and the purpose are an experience, and they have all these intersections. And when I first thought about the path to my purpose, I was pretty sure it was like Highway 2. And there's clearly marked, turn right to go to Lacombe, turn left to go to Rimbey. Not so. You know that path? It's not straight. I even thought, wouldn't it be great if your path is like that labyrinth where you start on the outside and you just go round, 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 you get to the middle. No, it's not even that. Then I had this epiphany, and I thought, you know what that path is? It's like a maze. You know the ones in the puzzles and the magazines? Well, and if you don't know that, you're just not as old as me. But you know a corn maze. And so for me, I think that's what the path is. You know where to go in, and you know where to go out. But inside that maze, you got to backtrack many times. And I think when you're backtracking is when you use your intuition. You can look at this road and think, oh, does this road look lighter? Is this the golden road, or is this a gravel road? Is this one paved? Is this one a ditch? And only you know that. Sometimes I've taken the ditch, and I knew that I was in the ditch, even when I was in the ditch. But I had to backtrack. It's okay to turn around and change your life. I've seen a lot of relationships end that way because they make a mistake and you follow through on that mistake, and then everybody holds fast to, well, you're wrong and I'm right. It's okay to backtrack because life really is a maze. And I talked about being on this path and about the golden road. I think there's a way to find the golden road. And I think you already know what it is, because there's a spiritual path, and that's using affirmative prayer, meditation, contemplation. That's one way to get there. There's a physical path. I don't always take it, but there's people here that do. It's yoga, Tai Chi, anything that gets you into your body. And then there's a mental path where you study and you read and you study the Gnostic Gospels. You study Ernest Holmes. You study philosophy. So you can take those three paths. Following the path, as Ernest Holmes calls it, is the way of the mystic. Oh, I love that word, mystic. Rising above consciousness to transcend into transcendent purpose. You transcend the ego, you transcend the self, and you transcend time and space. So I talked about these two different paths. There's the one of the doer, which is your job, which is what I thought my purpose was. And I've even done workshops on it. What are you good at and what should you do? It's like, don't listen to me anymore. Lena, we did that talk. We did that. That's not your purpose. It's what you're good at or what your job is. Your purpose is to rise above time and space. You are a knower. That's your purpose. Your purpose is to be a mystic. Do you know the doer mostly works in the material world, in the physical world, and it uses its physical body as the motor. But the mystic follows an inner path. There's no motor. There's just love pushing you forward. When you have to pull something to you, you're a doer. When something pushes you to a spiritual path, you're a mystic. The knower and the doer, we want them both to become one because we live in the physical world. So we want to be able to bring that mystical thought into our world and work. Unless you had an enlightened childhood or an adolescence, you're programmed to be doers. We're all programmed. And we seed that spiritual idea in our mind to be the doer. But let's replant that soil with the seed of mysticism, of the knower. Transcendent purpose is the knower. It's the mystic within. You know, Ernest Holmes defines a mystic as one who perceives the truth without a mental process. You just walk through the world, and that's not true, and that's true, and arrives at a spiritual realization, which translates to a mystic is one who sees the truth and knows that he knows the I am. I am, I am, I am. That's spiritual truth. And it's not a destination. It's a realization. William James, a philosopher, he says that a mystic is one who has a deep inner sense of life and unity with the whole. And that goes back to transcendent purpose, rising above time and space and knowing that we're all one and anything we ever want is already inside of us. But how do we germinate that? So the mystical path. And it can be defined in 5 steps. So we've done 2 steps and 3 steps, and now the big one. The 5 steps to the spiritual path. The first one was awakening, and I talked about that. Ernest Holmes says, until we awake to the fact that we are one in nature with the divine, we shan't find our way in life. Wake up. So, you know, the spiritual awakening, if you're here, you've had a spiritual awakening. So you're already on the path. It's the beginning of the path. And for some, it might be gradual. It took me 40 years and looking around and seeing the young people. And for some, it's like, I'm not waiting until I'm 40. I want to be on that path now. And for some, it happens during a spiritual initiation ceremony, like a baptism. Kathy and Floyd and Ursula had a baptism. That was a real spiritual awakening. I cried. Kathy cried. But not for everybody. Sometimes it's this holy time of Easter where we're reminded about rebirth, the resurrection, and the inspiration to do the same thing. Others have this awakening because of something that happened in their life. And that was me, a critical incident. I remember reading that once, or maybe my sisters told me. You only get spiritual when something crappy happens to you. And I took that to heart, and I thought, well, what happened to me? Well, I don't know if everybody knows. Most people know here. 3 big things happened to me. When I was 12, I drowned, and I was brought back. But I saw the light. I saw the curtains. And I had a deeper understanding of who I was. And then I conceived my son at 15. I thought, holy crap, what was that about? And I became a little more interested in what life had to deal for me. And then I had an addiction I had to deal with. And that was the third thing. And I thought, okay, I give up. Can you teach me how to be the person I want to be? I want to know oneness. I want to know divinity. I want to know spirit. I want to know God. And I have to tell you that all through this, I was, reading leaves and reading cards and doing healing, doing all the right things. Inside, I was a mess. So awakening, what woke you up to come here? And what continues to wake you up? That's the biggest one. And then once you're awake, you realize, gosh, I don't have room for all these things in my life, all the bad things that I've done and all the good things. So you want to repeat that awakening. You want to keep waking up, and you want to live in a permanent state of grace. But there's things you have to let go of. Whether it's a person, a place, a job, an attachment to a certain person, you just have to let go of it. And it's important to know you don't have to really physically give up anything. All you have to give up is the attachment to it. Are you running it, or is it running you? I was attached to that story. I just love telling the story about, poor me. I was a teenage mother. Or, poor me. Do you know that I was a single mom for a long time? And that was my story, and I told it over and over, and one day that was my reality. And now I gave that up, and I started to bless it. I started to bless my son. I celebrated and blessed my independence. I celebrate and bless the strength that I got when I nearly drowned. So now we've awakened. We know we got to release some things that no longer serve us because we want to stay awake and alive. And the light starts to stay on. And so once you've cleared all that stuff, you want to stay in that state of awakening. And you want it to be intense, and you want it to last longer because you're one with it all. And the state of illumination is easy and full of joy. And then somebody cuts you off at a streetlight. And you think, how can I stay awakened? And so I have to tell you, being awake and letting go, it's not going to diminish your buttons being pushed. But what you can do is, because we're no longer physical, just doers, you can ask for guidance. Is there something I need to release to this attachment, to this driver? And talking to them doesn't count because they can't hear you. They're in another car. When you're awake and you let go of what no longer serves you, then the light stays on. And you go through things in life, but they don't trigger you the same way. So you've done all that. You're awake, you let go, you're keeping the light on, and then you get a lesson. And the message knocks at the door. You're at the crossroads, and you come across obstacles, mental or physical, because the one thing yet to be surrendered is the ego. It hasn't fully transcended, and you're always thinking, I'm an island. Nobody else understands me. There's just me. But you're not. You're an ocean. And the way through that lesson is surrender. Ooh, that's a big word. Do you know, I used to think surrender was giving up, but it's not. It's faith. It's giving in to something greater than you are. The door out of that experience is surrender. And again, listen to your intuition. Let spirit guide you. And then the final one is you realize you've transcended time and space, and there's only one life, and we're all one, and you give up everything, and the mystics gained everything by being passive. And I got to tell you, that's a tough one, being passive. My kids sometimes say to me, Mom, you hardly ever react to us anymore. You never get mad. What's with that? I said, well, I'm going to be the instrument of peace. I'm going to be the peace I want to see in the family. So you'll know that. When you find that passive, peaceful place within you, your family not going to like it. Your boss not going to like it. Because people really like to make you react to them because they feed on that. But we know now we're all one, and there's only one life. And we don't need to experience mood swings because we have bliss. And we settled into this feeling of constant peacefulness and a love-filled union with the divine. I even have to tell you, I said today something I haven't said for a long time when I think about the angst over money. Oh my gosh, if you're caught in race consciousness right now, that's all you hear on the TV, we're going through a recession, everybody's run out of money. Do you know what they forgot? That our income is not our source. Our income's what we put in the bank, but our source is limitless. So don't mix up your income with your source. And then I just want to finish with a little bit about the Christian month of today's Palm Sunday. And I think Jesus really symbolized those 5 steps that I talked about, the awakening and the staying awake. And the baptism symbolized his awakening. The 40 days in the desert symbolized his releasing. And then that followed by illumination, by staying in the light. And he did that by healing and teaching. And then he surrendered on the cross. And while his life was cut short, it's still significant because he rose again and he continues to teach unity and love to this day through his writings, through the things that we read, through all the mystics and sages that have come after him, before him. Because I read Plato, and it was thousands of years before Jesus, and he was teaching love. So it's not just him, but he put it in a book that we could follow. So this Palm Sunday, there's one part of the story I want to tell you about. Do you know, when he rode into Jerusalem, which was Palm Sunday, and some people say they put palm leaves down. Not everybody believes that. But one thing is true. He sent his disciples ahead of him, and he said, go to Jerusalem and bring me a donkey. And they thought, why would such a wise man want to ride a donkey? But the symbolism of that is, he said to his disciples, do you know that in ancient times kings rode war horses when they were going in to conquer, but if they were going in peace, they rode a donkey? And I think that's maybe something that can help you on your path. Maybe your purpose isn't something you have to conquer. You have to journey in peace. So a combination of both of those, the doer and the knower, is somehow easier because you're both of them and you're already on the path. Your body, the doer, your mind, the knower, you're already a mystic. Ernest Holmes, in The Philosophy of Jesus, he said, oh, this is so interesting. He says, why should we not trace the pathway of our lives back until it leads into a childlike confidence in living? And then, as it were, grow into adulthood all over again, keeping this thought in mind. What if we could go back to our childhood and grow again with these thoughts in mind? The Spirit is daily flowing through me into action. It is daily projecting itself through me in my relations with others. And then these 3 things. The wisdom of Spirit is guiding me. The power of Spirit is guarding me. The presence of Spirit goes before me and prepares the way. I just have to repeat that. The wisdom of Spirit is guiding me. The power of Spirit is guarding me. And the presence of Spirit goes before me and prepares the way. I talked about how when I realized that my story was something I was telling over and over and I moved into a state of blessing, I think we could put that into our transcendent purpose. Let it be a blessing of those 5 steps. Bless your awakening. For some it might be painful, but bless it all. Bless your purification and letting go of outcomes and things. Bless your illumination and recognize it, that your mind and spirit are illuminating the path to awakening. Bless the obstacles. Oh, build a bridge. Surrender your need to control people, outcomes. Surrender to a higher power. And bless the unity of all life. One mind, one spirit, one God, one life. Bless them all. Daniel Steiner Rass says, blessing is the lifeblood throbbing through the universe. And I'd like to close with a quote from our teacher and mentor, Ernest Holmes. He says, I speak my word now as a conscious co-creator with the one Spirit. I speak my word of health, of harmony, of abundance, and of loving relationships in all my affairs. I know wherever I go and whatever I do, the loving presence and power of the one Spirit is with me. My life is blessed now and always. The wisdom of Spirit is guiding me. The power of Spirit's guarding me, and the presence of Spirit goes before me and prepares the way. Thank you. I am Reverend Joanne Faith, Peace, and Love Boruck. And I choose transcendence. And so it is.